Elizabeth Warren has announced a new economic policy that she is referring to as, quote, an aggressive intervention on behalf of American workers. So what she wants to do is not only protect American jobs, but create well-paying, sustainable, stable jobs for Americans as well. She unveiled her campaign theme of economic patriotism, kind of taking a word, patriotism, that you hear on the Republican side quite a bit and reclaiming it. She calls for a bigger version of the existing Export-Import Bank, which I want to ask you guys about a little bit. And that would fund a broader range of programs. She also wants stricter rules requiring the US government purchases to come from domestic resources, which would help to create and secure more jobs here in the United States. She wants to invest $2 trillion in climate-friendly industries over a decade, create the Department of Economic Development, which I'll give you more details about in just a second, and then also research the value of the US dollar and how it impacts the trade deficit. So when it comes to the Department of Economic Development, that would combine the functions of the Commerce Department with the Small Business Administration, the Patent and Trademark Office, various job training and research and development programs that are scattered around the bureaucracy, and the export and trade agencies, including the Office of the US Trade Representatives. The whole point here of combining all of these government entities is to push for a single goal, which is creating and defending good American jobs. So this is comprehensive, incredibly detailed as always, and this is her strong suit, focusing on the economic policies. I think that there are some issues with foreign policy, which I talked about in the post game yesterday a little bit, but economic policy is her strong suit, and I love seeing her put this stuff out.
Yeah, and I love how there's a focus on small businesses, which actually are the engine to economic growth in our country. Small businesses are so important and highly neglected in this era of multinational corporate power.
Yes.
And small businesses are actually the ones where those in the business have greater equity in the business. So trying to support small business growth in this country is extremely important. I think it's great also, I've spoken to Warren twice in person, and both times I've spoken to her, she uses the term social contract to describe the deal she wants American workers to have with work, meaning you work, but you get more than enough to cover your basic needs, retirement, healthcare, and so on, right? So you stem this tide of greater economic disenfranchisement that is the reality today for the American worker, no matter what the macroeconomic statistics show. So I think it's great. I also think that it would be great to think about these policies in relation to automation and the gig economy, which we've spoken about before. A large number of jobs are going to be taken by private corporate-owned robots, yes, including the ones by Uber and Google and so on. And it's really important that in the process, the worker is protected, the dignity of labor, so labor is not exploited.
What do you think would be a good protection for workers who might be impacted by automation?
Great question. So I think it's really important that we think now about the jobs of the future, the jobs where we work with automated systems, right? So there was a great story on the New York Times where it talked about in Sweden, I know Sweden's not the same as the US, where it was talking about how mining work has now been replaced by robots. I'm not a big fan of mines personally, I'll admit it, but actually how new jobs have been introduced where those miners are now operating the robots and training the robots, not in a sort of passive way, but actually operating the robots so that they can do the mining for them. So it's jobs like that, work of the future, working with technologies, introducing new jobs. And if there aren't enough well-paying, dignified jobs that support economic security out there, everybody has to be ensured a basic wage floor and healthcare and benefits. We've spoken about the universal basic income. To me, it's okay, but it's not in itself the right solution. I think everybody in a society who invests, the internet, for example, was invested in publicly, right? This was a government-run project, yet none of us almost are reaping the benefits of this massive, trillion-plus dollar, many trillion-dollar industry that is the internet in multinational corporates, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Google,
there was
Amazon,
definitely, I think in the beginning phases, some upsides, but now we're seeing the downsides of these corporations that are taking advantage of our private data, selling that data. But look, this is true of pretty much every major industry in the country. We contribute quite a bit to research and development, and then these very companies turn around in a lot of ways. They exploit us, take advantage of us, they ship jobs overseas. Right. And just to kind of buttress your point about working alongside the robots and using automation to our advantage, not fearing them because they're going to take jobs away. Richard Wolff made a point about how in a society where the employees actually have more of a say in a company, where they might even own the means of production.
Absolutely.
You could even have a situation in which robots or automation free up your time, right? And so it's a benefit for everyone because you're still producing the same work. Maybe you're even producing more, but you have a little more free time. It sounds a little utopian to me. I'm gonna keep it real.
Yeah.
It's gonna be difficult to accomplish something like that, but I would love to live in a society
There are
like
enough
that.
economic studies that I've read, like for my new book, where we actually see when those affected by these privatized technological developments, actually instead of just being passively, exploited by them, when they actually have investment and equity in those enterprises, everyone can win out. You can still create profitability without having this sort of zero-sum game.
And the ultimate thing is, I think it's great that she's putting these proposals out. I mean, that's what I guess she's being known for, that she's going with these policies. I got ideas.
Yeah.
I got ideas because otherwise, you're combating these people that keep saying coal and whatever they want to hold on to. But she's got some plans, and the world is moving in that direction. Whenever people go, "Oh, immigrants are taking our jobs," I go, "Immigrants aren't taking your jobs." I used to go to the parking lot, and the guy working, there was a parking attendant. Now it's just an auto, it's just it's a machine, right? Yeah. The phone does a million things that a million people used to do. So as you said, we need to listen to somebody like this and these ideas. And another thing she tweeted that wasn't part of this, but she tweeted out that she wants to have $60,000. Was that her that said $60,000 minimum wage for teachers? I think it was her.
Wow.
Oh,
was
that Bernie?
Yeah.
Okay, well that was Bernie.
I didn't see that tweet.
Either way, I think that's the kind of stuff we need to. We need to change the paradigm a little bit and invest in these types of things.
Yeah, and she has her own version of funding programs that help educate to apprentice programs. I'll give you an example. She calls for a 10-fold increase on spending on apprenticeship programs and restructuring of some existing job training programs to more clearly resemble the widely admired German apprenticeship model. Yeah, so she's actually looking at models throughout the world to kind of get a sense of what's working, what hasn't worked, and she's putting these policies together based on these case studies, which I think is so important. I mean, this is the thing that I never understood. We see models that work really well in other countries. Finland with their public education system, it is the best. Why don't we learn from these case studies? Why don't we try to apply these very programs?
As a comedian, I was touring in Europe recently. It was interesting when I would do material about my kids and how they're in different programs and how there's private school and you're trying to get them ready so they can get into the best college and they got to have skills and this and that. A lot of the audience was kind of staring at me like, why are you working so hard? Because in their countries, everyone gets to go to college if they want to go to college.
Right.
But they didn't understand this concept.
That's the social contract, right? Where everyone wins, and it's in the order, and this is what my friend Vikash once told me, as he's a small business owner. People, planet, profits, right? They all can exist in the same formula, but it's about people first.
Definitely, I love that.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.